So today, guys, I wanted to talk to you guys about something I noticed since the update. I feel like my Viessa is hitting a little harder. I feel like her skills in general are performing better. And I noticed it when I started soloing Devour. I want to say prior to the update that just came out yesterday, I was probably doing about 30 to 35 to 40 seconds. So around the 30-second range. And now I'm consistently dropping Devour in 20 seconds, a little bit above 20 seconds. And the crazy thing about it is prior to this update, I always had to plan where I was gonna drop my Blizzard, when I was gonna drop it. And now I just go in, I drop it, I damage, I drop it again, and it's over. And this wasn't happening. Prior to this, I would always proc his Frenzy. And I don't know if they increase the damage just enough that it's hitting that much harder, that it just feels a lot easier. And I also noticed playing with her, just running around with her, I feel like she got a silent buff. Now, I can't pinpoint on it, but I have heard other Descendants saying that they feel like their skills are working a little bit better. So I gotta know in the comments, guys, before we continue on with this build, because I am gonna show you the build I am running. Did you guys notice any of this in your gameplay as you guys have been playing? So let's get into the build, because I know some of you guys came here for that. So you guys know we have Ultimate Viessa. You can run this with Ultimate or non-Ultimate. The big difference between the two, you guys know by now, is probably the defense. And then also you do get an extra module that will already have a module socket type on it. So nothing too crazy. I'm not going to be using an Ultimate only Transcendent module, so you guys can build this the way it is. You'll notice on this build we have 16,000 defense and almost 7,000 health. For soloing bosses, I feel like that's not too bad. Sometimes I like to have my health a little bit higher than that, but you know, you guys can play with this how you want. Now, we do use Thunder Cage as our primary, and I just got the Afterglow, so I plan on incorporating this into my bosses. But this Thunder Cage can do everything it needs to do. It has firearm attack, it has critical hit damage, critical hit rate, and then bonus firearm attack versus Colossals. Now, I'll show you a full breakdown of this in a second, but let's get into the build. So you can see for this one, for bossing, I personally like Cold Bloodiness. The reason why is when I use a skill, it increases skill power and decreases skill cost and cooldown. Now, I always proc this prior to engaging with the enemy, because I proc it and then I throw out my skill, and that allows me to decrease the skill cost and the cooldown. Now, I do have Spear and Shield on here. I do have a little bit of defense on here, but the reason why I do like Spear and Shield on this build is because it gives you defense and it gives you skill power. So I do still get some skill power, and then obviously I have some defense on here. Now, we have increased HP. I feel like this is the one piece you should put on most of your builds, because HP gives you that little bit of survivability you need, especially if you take a lot of damage. You can kind of tank enemies. Increase HP even on skill builds is kind of the way we go. We have skill extension on here for the skill duration. That's going to give us longer time that our skills last, right? So the Blizzard lasts a little bit longer. We have nimble fingers to cut down on the skill cooldown. We have front lines because we want our skills to crit, right? So we have skill critical damage and skill critical hit rate. We have MP conversion to drop that skill cooldown, and that's why you're seeing my skills come back so much faster. We have emergency measures to have skill critical hit rate, skill critical damage. Then we have skill critical hit rate again. So again, we want to make sure that we can crit, and I'll show you my exact crit number, well, my exact critical hit rate on this build. And then we have focus on chill. That's going to lower our skill cooldown, plus give us skill chill power, and then skill concentration to give us some more critical hit damage. Now, I recently got this one, long distance maneuvering. If you guys haven't got this, highly recommend trying to farm for this. The reason why is because it gives you a bigger distance, hooks at 25 meters. So that's what I love about it. And it's amazing. It's amazing, especially if you're trying to grapple onto those bosses. I feel like this works. This allows you to never miss those grapples, and you can hit that shoulder blade and then like rip off that armor they have there. So kind of how I run it here. Let me show you the actual skill critical hit rate on this build. If you go over to go to info, you'll see right here we're sitting at almost 50% skill critical hit rate, which is actually really great. And then skill critical damage is a multiplier of 3.692. Now, if you go over to my Thunder Cage, you'll notice my skill critical hit rate is 30%, and then my multiplier on my critical damage is 6.742. So pretty solid there. And then let's get into the reactor, because this can make or break your build. You notice we have the thunder cage mounting, because obviously whatever gun, ultimate gun you're using, you kind of want to have that mounting for it. We also have chill skill power and fusion skill power right here. Now remember, fusion skill power is going to help with 1, 2, and 3. And then obviously if you have if you want to make your blizzard, well, that's where you need to not use the fusion. But it still works great on this because we have additional skill attack when attacking colossals, and we have skill critical hit rate on here. And my blizzards are already hitting really strong, so I can just like spam that first attack over and over and over. Now for the external components, I went with the Slayer set. Now you're gonna have to farm this one. This one comes from Hard Boss, and we have defense on here, and we have max HP. Ideally for this one, you kind of want to make sure you get the one that has defense and max HP. Now for the Slayer sensor, we have max shield, and then we have chill resistance. If you find something else you like, but for me, I feel like this one works great. For the memory, we have max shield and defense. And then obviously if you can get defense, here's what you want to go for, because that's 3,300. And then for our last piece, we have max HP, and then it has max shield. Now, the reason I picked this set is because it gives us general round capacity 8%, rounds per magazine 9%, skill cost 15%, skill power 26%. That skill power is going to be really good, especially if you want to drop enemies. And the fact that we are using cold bloodiness, that skill cost, you know, it's not too bad on us, because if we go take a look at it, right, what does cold bloodiness do? It decreases skill cost and skill cooldown. So even though it get raised on 1, it kind of helps out having this right here. So cold-bloodedness is what I like using for bossing. Obviously, you guys know if I am running mobbing, I use hypothermia with a little different builds. I already put that out, but again, this is my go-to, dropping bosses in 20 seconds. And you guys saw it in the video. It's a really good build. Let me show you my thunder cage real quick. We have rifle and reinforcement for the firearm attack, action reaction firearm attack, recoil plus 20%, better insight for critical hit rate. We have weak point sight for weak point damage. If you guys are bossing, highly recommend putting weak point. Remember, your DPS right here does not show anything with weak point damage, but this weak point damage is going to help you hit those higher numbers because bosses have bigger weak points. We have 1 elemental damage, so whoever I'm fighting, I swap this out. 13 is currently what I can max it out at, so I usually have, I'm missing 3 right here, but this is kind of how I run this, and then I just swap it out. Like if I'm running toxic, if a boss is weak to toxic, I switch that. Fire, switch that. Now again, weak point damage is great against colossal, so weak point damage 20% right here, and then fire critical hit rate. We have concentration priority for fire critical hit damage and reload time modifier. We have concentration support ammo rounds per magazine, and then we have fire rate up for 25% extra fire rate. And then finally, better concentration for critical hit damage. You guys saw right here, it does show critical hit rate 40%, but we know it's 30% when you go to the other side, and we already showed you the real numbers, and then you can see right here, so we get 30% extra rounds per magazine, which makes a difference, especially when you're fighting. So right here you see my rounds per magazine, the base is 26. I think in fights I have 33 or 36 around there, so amazing right here. So kind of this is how I am running my setup. This is my bossing build, and I'm loving her. Viessa has become my favorite main in the game. I can pretty much do everything, bosses, mobbing, whatever I want. But yeah, this build is specifically for dropping those bosses fast. All right, guys. Hey, appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, share it, like it. Hey, until the next one, hey, nothing but skills out.